Disrespect. We've all felt its sting. That condescending tone, that dismissive comment, that feeling of being utterly unheard. It's frustrating. It's infuriating. It can derail your entire day. But what if I told you that you have the power to shut it down instantly? Not through anger, not through aggression, but through a calm, centered strength that commands respect. Imagine walking into a room knowing that no matter what negativity is thrown your way, you can deflect it with grace and maintain your inner peace. Stoicism isn't about being a doormat. It's about controlling your reaction and choosing your response. In this video, we're diving deep into practical Stoic techniques you can use right now to silence, disrespect, and reclaim your power. Get ready to transform your interactions and protect your peace of mind, because in this video, we're breaking down the Stoic mindset for handling disrespect, starting now. The first thing you want to do when confronted with disrespect is flip the script. Don't react how they want you to. When disrespect shows its face, understand this. It rarely is truly about you. More often, it's a hungry beast, and your emotional investment is its meal. Your anger, your frustration, your hurt, these are currency. They are the fuel a bully seeks, the oxygen to their flickering, manipulative flame. They throw a verbal stone not to injure you, but to see if you'll pick it up and throw it back, confirming their own twisted sense of power. Disrespect, at its core, is frequently an attempt to pull you into another person's volatile state. Think of a man drowning in his own filth, grabbing at anyone nearby to drag them down. They're not looking for help. They're looking for company in their misery. The aggressor often lives in a storm of their own making. Insecurity, unaddressed anger, deep-seated resentment, a persistent feeling of inadequacy. They carry this internal chaos, this personal disquiet, and when they can't manage it, they project it outward onto you. Their goal isn't necessarily to hurt you in a conventional sense, but to destabilize you, to make you lose your footing, to knock you off your own foundation of composure and self-possession. They want to bring you down to their level, to make you as agitated, as irrational, as off-balance as they are. This brings us to the unspoken agreement you enter into when you choose to engage defensively or emotionally. When you react with anger, with justification, with an attempt to explain yourself, you're not just responding, you're tacitly agreeing to the terms of their engagement. It's like stepping into a boxing ring when you didn't agree to the fight. By lashing back, or even by defensively explaining, you're confirming that their perceived slight had enough weight to provoke a reaction from you. You're saying, yes, your words have power over me. Yes, I am affected by your opinion. And in doing so, you grant them authority over your emotional state, an authority they didn't earn and certainly don't deserve. The true power lies in refusing to sign that agreement. It's in the quiet, unyielding refusal to be drawn in, to maintain your own equilibrium in the face of their storm. When you don't engage, when you don't validate their desperate bid for attention or control, their aggression becomes a performance without an audience, a punch thrown into empty air. The agreement is void, and they are left alone with their own bitterness, their own insecurity. You retain your power by refusing to surrender it. Remember that we exist in a world that constantly bangs on the door of our attention, demanding entry, seeking to influence, to define, to even derail. It's a relentless siege, often subtle, sometimes overt. To navigate this, to truly stand firm amidst the clamor, you need more than just a thick skin. You need an internal boundary. Think of it not as a wall built to isolate yourself, but as a meticulously guarded perimeter. This isn't about shutting the world out entirely. It's about establishing clear, unyielding lines regarding what you permit to cross into your most sacred territory, your mind and your spirit. It's a psychological defense mechanism, yes, but more accurately, It's an active assertion of self-sovereignty. It's a conscious decision to control the narrative that plays within you, regardless of the noise outside. And this brings us to a fundamental, often overlooked truth. No external action can genuinely harm your inner peace without your explicit or implicit permission. Let that sink in. Someone can insult you, betray you, or fail you. But the damage to your tranquility, the erosion of your calm, only occurs when you grant that external event the power to penetrate your perimeter. You are the ultimate gatekeeper. Your anger, your hurt, your fear. These are often self-inflicted wounds, triggered not by the event itself, but by your reaction to it, your interpretation, your choice to internalize it. It's a hard truth, and perhaps an inconvenient one, because it places the burden squarely on your shoulders. But in that burden lies immense power. You are not a victim of circumstance, unless you choose to be. Your inner fortress remains impregnable, so long as you do not lower the drawbridge. The choice, always, remains yours. So, the foundational step, the very first brick in building this impenetrable perimeter, involves a stark acknowledgement. You, and only you, hold sole control over the entrance to your inner calm. It's a declaration, an internal vow. It's a daily commitment to vigilance. After a lifetime of dealing with people, you learn a few things. One of them is that when someone sets out to disrespect you, to diminish you, to try and chip away at your edges, they're not just winging it. They've got a script. Not written down, not formalized, but it's there, humming beneath the surface of their intentions. They operate with an anticipated sequence of events, a mental roadmap for how you're going to react. It's almost a primitive instinct, like a predator sniffing out a predictable prey. They throw their bait, and they expect you to bite in a particular way. Ultimately, reacting differently is about reclaiming your mental control and presence in the immediacy of the moment. It's about stepping out of the automatic pilot mode that so often governs our days and into a state of conscious, deliberate engagement. When you choose your response, you're not just avoiding regret. You're actively asserting your autonomy. You're telling yourself and the world that you are the master of your own internal state, not a slave to impulse or external provocation. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the best thing you can do is nothing. The reason is because there are moments in life, and they come more often than you might think, when the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. It's a hard lesson to learn, especially when instinct screams for a retort, for a defense, for a counterpunch. But sometimes, holding your tongue, keeping your peace, that's the real fight. We're talking about situations where the barrage comes in. Maybe an unfounded accusation, a cheap shot designed to get under your skin, or just a relentless stream of negativity aimed squarely at your composure. The common wisdom tells you to address it, to correct the record, to stand your ground verbally. But what if standing your ground means standing perfectly still, like a rock against a breaking wave? Strategic silence is an active choice, a deliberate move on the chessboard of human interaction. When someone comes at you with fire, looking for a verbal brawl, they're expecting you to meet them halfway. They want the engagement, the validation that their provocation matters. When you offer no response, when you absorb the blow without flinching and without uttering a word, you pull the rug out from under them. The energy they brought, the tension they sought to build, has nowhere to go. It just dissipates, hangs in the air, and often it falls back on them. They're left talking into a void, and that silence, your silence, becomes louder than any argument you could have made. It forces them to hear their own words echo without the satisfaction of a reaction. This redirection of energy is profound. It's like stepping aside from a charging bull. You don't stop it with force. You simply remove yourself from its path, letting its own momentum carry it past you, harmlessly. One of the clearest ways we can see this is online. People say dumb things all the time to start fights. They don't even know that you're there. They don't even know that you've heard what they said. And in that case, saying nothing may really be the best choice. Don't feed their algorithm. Let it starve. By ignoring it, you're telling the system, "This is dumb. Look at how no one is engaging." That will usually be more effective than words anyway. Now, don't misunderstand. There are other moves, especially when this is happening in person. You could call out their rudeness, right then and there. You could involve a third party, if the situation warrants it. You could even meet their aggression head-on with your own. And sometimes, those are precisely the right tactics. But in many cases, especially when the goal is simply to provoke or demean, those approaches only feed the beast. They grant legitimacy to the bad behavior. By engaging, you're essentially saying, "Yes, your words are important enough for me to react to." The art of unresponsiveness, however, is a different beast entirely. It's about maintaining your own frame, your own dignity, without getting dragged where you don't want to go. This brings us to the core of it. Choose not to validate inappropriate behavior with your engagement. Every single time you respond to an insult, a petty jab, a baseless attack, you are, in a very real sense, validating it. You're confirming that their words have impact, that they've managed to get under your skin. Your silence, on the other hand, is a powerful denial of that validation. It's a statement, unspoken but clear, that their words are insignificant. They don't warrant your attention. They don't deserve your time or your breath. It's an act of self-preservation, of protecting your peace. But more than that, it's a declaration of standards. You are communicating, "I won't participate in this. You won't get anything more out of me." If you do choose to act, then the question you must ask, with unblinking honesty, is simple. Am I currently anchored in calm? Or am I operating from a place of agitation, of frustration, of genuine anger? Feel it. Trace the current through your veins. Calm isn't passive. It's a deep well of controlled power. Agitation, on the other hand, is a flickering flame, easily fanned into an uncontrolled blaze that consumes everything, especially your own judgment. Anger, raw and untempered, is a blind weapon. It strikes indiscriminately, often hitting what you value most, never as accurate as the target of the stoic mind. To act from that place is to give your opponent a map to your weaknesses, a key to your own undoing. It's like going into a knife fight with your eyes closed, hoping for the best. So stay calm. It's the difference between being swept away by the undertow of someone else's emotional chaos and standing firm, unyielding, rooted in your own deliberate strength. It allows you to observe the fray, rather than become another casualty in it, because it ensures that any subsequent response you make, if a response is even necessary, should be purposeful and effective. It means your words, when they come, are not merely reactions, but considered instruments. They carry weight. They are chosen, not blurted. They are aimed, not sprayed. You speak from a place of strength and clarity, not from the echoing chamber of your own inner turmoil. Sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all, and that internal check-in gives you the wisdom to know the difference. There comes a time when silence itself becomes a concession, a tacit agreement to the disrespect being offered. When that line is crossed, and it will be, your response is not an emotional outburst, but a deliberate act. You don't match their energy, you transcend it. Your voice in such moments must carry the weight of undeniable calm, the clarity of a factual statement, or even the disarming edge of genuine curiosity. Instead of being passive, you are wielding your control like a finely tuned instrument. A true measure of strength isn't in the volume of your retort, but in its measured intent. So say you've made the decision. You're going to act. You're going to respond. Good. Now comes the hard part. Not the anger. You've already separated yourself from that. The hard part is doing it right. There is a discipline to this. A craft, really. Like any craft, it requires clarity. First, say what needs saying, nothing more. The men who waste words are the men who doubt their own position. You don't doubt yours. You've checked it already. You know where you stand. So when you speak with weight. You speak with purpose. You don't explain yourself. You don't justify. You state the fact. This is not acceptable. I won't tolerate this. That stops now. You say it once. You say it clean. Then you stop. The tongue is a dangerous instrument. Most men pick it up like a drunk picks up a bottle, without thinking, desperate for relief, making everything worse. Don't be that man. Your words should land like a punch from a trained fighter. Efficient, precise, devastating not because they're loud, but because they're true, and delivered with an absolute lack of doubt. Second, hold your line. They will push. This is what they do. They tested you and found you didn't break. So they'll test you again, harder. They'll add more words, throw more provocations, try to drag you back into the old pattern. They'll tell you you're overreacting, being unfair, being difficult. Let them. You've already said what needed saying. You aren't here to debate your own self-respect. A man doesn't negotiate with someone who refuses to treat him decently. He simply doesn't. He stands there, quiet, unmoved, and lets the other person discover that their tactics don't work anymore. This is where most men fail. They can stay calm once. They can deliver their message once. But when pressed, when the other person escalates, they crack. They feel obligated to defend their position further. They fall back into argument. That's the trap. Don't walk into it. You've said your piece. You've drawn the line. Now you maintain it by not engaging anymore. Silence is your weapon here. A solid, unmovable silence. Third, know when to leave. There's a moment, and you'll feel it, when continuing the interaction serves no purpose. The other person isn't going to change. The situation isn't going to improve. The conversation has become theater, and you're the only one taking it seriously. This is when you go, not in anger, not with a final word or a dramatic exit. You simply remove yourself from the situation. You walk away, you hang up, you disengage. This isn't giving up. It's recognizing that some people aren't worth your continued attention. Finally, let it settle. You've responded. You've held your boundary. Now you leave it alone. You don't replay it in your head. You don't rehash it with friends. You don't email about it hours later. You've handled it. It's done. The worst thing a man can do after establishing a boundary is undermine it by obsessing over whether he did it right. You did. You know you did. Move on. This kind of clean break, this ability to act decisively and then release it, is what separates the strong from the anxious. The whole thing, from deciding to react to walking away, should feel almost simple when you do it right. Because you've removed the emotional theater. You're not fighting for anyone's approval or respect. You're simply maintaining your own standards. And that, when done properly, is almost beautiful in its efficiency, like a clean kill, like justice served, like a man who knows exactly who he is and isn't interested in negotiating about it. Let's use an example of how you might respond. Consider the simple, almost startling effectiveness of a question asked at the right moment, in the right way. Instead of mirroring someone's aggression, you might offer, with a steady gaze and a level tone, "Are you all right?" This isn't an invitation to further argument. It's a disruption. It forces a pause, a moment of introspection that their anger likely hasn't allowed. It's a question that cuts through the noise they're making, often catching them off guard. Or, if the boundary violation is more direct, more personal, a firm but utterly calm declaration. I don't appreciate your tone. There's no room for negotiation in that statement, no invitation to debate. It simply states a truth, a boundary that has been established and is now being defended, not with a counterattack, but with an immovable presence. It's a professional drawing of the line. Now they may cross that line, and you may need to escalate when they do. But the difference here is that you've carefully planned and led things to this point. You didn't play their game. They played yours. Above all else, never lose sight of your primary objective. This is not about winning an argument, about proving a point, or about engaging in a futile battle of wits or wills. Your solitary goal is to halt the disrespect, to end the unacceptable behavior. The moment you allow yourself to be drawn into a contentious debate, to respond to every barb, every baseless accusation, you have already conceded ground. You've allowed their rules to dictate the engagement. A genuine argument requires two willing participants. By refusing to engage on their terms, by simply stating the boundary and holding it, you deny them the fight they might be seeking. There's a fortification we all need to build, not with bricks and mortar, but within ourselves. It's a continuous project, this reinforcement of your internal composure, the steady hand that keeps you from shaking when the storm hits. And just as vital, the unwavering self-respect that tells you what you are worth, no matter what external forces try to chip away at it. Every day, you're either adding a stone to that wall or letting it crumble slightly. It's about understanding that your inner state is your most valuable possession, more so than any material gain or fleeting approval. You carry it with you always, a silent strength that defines how you meet the world. If you let it weaken, you're leaving yourself exposed. If you nourish it, you become unshakable. And when the world, or certain people in it, decides to test that wall, the first, the most crucial, and often the hardest lesson is this: don't let them get to you. It sounds simple, almost trite, but the application is anything but. The noise, the criticism, the deliberate provocations, they are all designed to pull you off your center. But that's where the discipline comes in. The focus must immediately pivot inward, not on what they said or what they did, but on your reaction. What can you do? What is within your sphere of control? Usually, it's just that. Your own response. It's about denying them the power to dictate your emotional landscape. They can throw stones, but you decide whether they hit glass or solid rock. You decide whether to engage in their chaos or maintain your own calm. Each time you navigate one of these challenging interactions, each time you manage to keep your head when others are losing theirs, you're not just surviving, you're strengthening. You're adding another layer of steel to that inner fortress. Mastering these moments builds your overall resilience. You become tougher, more capable of absorbing the blows that life inevitably throws your way without breaking. And hand in hand with that resilience comes a profound sense of mental tranquility. When you know you can face down external pressures and remain internally sound, a quiet confidence settles in. The world doesn't become less chaotic, but your place within it feels more stable, more secure. The constant internal chatter, the worry, the what-ifs, they begin to quiet down. You learn to trust your own ability to steer the ship, even through rough seas. And that concludes our topic for today. As always, thank you for listening and helping to keep this channel alive. If this video helped you reclaim your power in the face of disrespect, leave a comment below sharing which strategy changed how you'll handle it next time. Your experience might be exactly what another viewer needs to stop tolerating the intolerable. And remember to subscribe for more stoic wisdom that builds unshakable mental strength and real-world resilience. As Epictetus, a great Stoic thinker, once said, "No person is free who is not master of themselves." When you master your response to disrespect, you master your life. You stop being reactive and become deliberate. Start now and become the man who commands respect, not through aggression, but through the quiet authority of someone who refuses to be diminished.